Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And good evening and welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, making sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Tonight's show is about coordination, defiance, and what happens when ideology openly replaces the rule of law. Across every segment tonight, the same pattern. We check something. There we go. Sorry, I had to check to make sure my mic is working. I've had issues with the program in this mic lately, and I don't know why. But tonight's show, as I said, is about coordination, defiance, and what happens when ideology openly replaces the rule of law. Across every segment tonight, the same pattern emerges. Elected officials obstruct enforcement. Institutions are repurposed to excuse failure, and culture voices work overtime to delegitimize law itself. We begin in multiple areas, actually, but one of the stories will be a Democrat mayor admitting they are actively coordinating with one another to interfere with federal immigration enforcement. This is no longer speculation or accusation. It is open acknowledgement. When local leaders brag about resisting ICE, they are not standing up for communities. They are deliberately undermining federal law. From there, we confront the emotional manipulation at the center of the left's messaging. Children are not being protected. They are being used. Sympathy is weaponized because it shuts down scrutiny. And anyone who questions the narrative is painted as cruel rather than being honest. We then turn to institutional decay in New York City, where the line between reform, dysfunction, and it all has fully collapsed. A correction commissioner now oversees the same jail system he once served time in. That decision tells you everything about priority standards and the erosion of serious inside public institutions. Next, the court re-enter the picture. A federal judge denies Minnesota's attempt to suspend immigration sweeps, reinforcing a basic truth that too many politicians want to ignore. Enforcement does not become optional because it's politically uncomfortable. Finally, we examine the broader culture surrounding all of this. The political figure's single exit while keeping doors open to insider appointments. And celebrities use national stage to declare law itself illegitimate. When enforcement is mocked, borders are dismissed, and slogans replace substance, the consequences are real and measurable. Nothing tonight is random. None of it happens in isolation. This is a show about enforcement versus obstruction, accountability versus narrative, and what happens when coordination replaces compliance. Let's get into it. But before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. I want to thank everybody that's going to be here tonight, everybody in chat, everybody that's watching. I appreciate it. Even the haters, I don't mind. All I ask is the chat stay respectful. That's it. Act like adults. We're supposed to be adults. Let's act like adults. Otherwise, let's get to the stories. And if I only pull the right page up. As I said, one of the first stories we're dealing with is a Democrat mayor admits he's coordinating with other leaders to interfere with ICE. This is not a misunderstanding. It is not poor wording. And it's not partisan spin. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson openly admitted that he is coordinating with other Democrat mayors across the country to impede federal immigration enforcement. He said it himself on the record at a national press club. This was not leaked. It was not inferred. It was bragged about. Johnson confirmed he is in regular communication with mayors in Minneapolis, Boston, Portland, Oakland, Denver, Baltimore, Los Angeles to learn from each other's experience and to develop strategies to respond to ICE operations. In plain English, that means elected city leaders are actively collaborating to obstruct federal law enforcement. This matters because ICE is not freelancing. ICE is executing federal law. When local officials organize resistance to that enforcement, they are not protecting constituents. They are interfering with lawful operations and placing both agents and civilians in danger. And it blows my mind how they get away with it. They are openly collaborating to obstruct law enforcement, and they're getting away with it. And we've already seen the consequences. In Minneapolis, 2 people were shot and killed during confrontations tied to so-called rapid response anti-ICE networks. These networks track ICE vehicles, share agent locations in real time, and mobilize crowds to interfere with arrest. This is not peaceful protection. This is not peaceful protest. This is coordinated obstruction. And one of the victims, Alex Pretty, was reportedly involved in an anti-ICE network and had been injured in a prior confrontation days earlier. His fatal shooting is still under investigation, with Border Patrol agents placed on administrative leave. That is how the system is supposed to work. Investigations happen. Facts are reviewed. Accountability follows evidence, not political pressure. Yet instead of dialing down the chaos, Mayor Johnson escalated. He boasted about Signal, about what he called the most sweeping executive order in Chicago's history, establishing ICE-free zones on city property and barring ICE and Border Patrol from staging or entering without a judicial warrant. He even described creating signage and enforcement infractions to block federal agents. That is not neutrality. That is resistance. Johnson went further, threatening to charge ICE agents and promising additional measures aimed at holding them accountable for criminal misconduct. Notice the framing, not accountability after proven wrongdoing, preemptive hostility toward an entire category of federal law enforcement. It blows my mind. I can't say it enough. How we allow elected officials, if I obstructed any bit, my ass would be in jail faster than I could say, go to jail. I mean, they would put me in jail fucking quick. But yet, because they're elected officials of the Democrat Party, they're allowed to get away with it. They're allowed to break the law. Meanwhile, in Chicago, ICE agents have already been shot at. Their vehicles have been rammed. Rioters have surrounded facilities, openly called for agents to be arrested or killed on video. And still, the mayor's response is not to condone the violence. It is to coordinate with other cities on how to keep ICE out. Let's be very clear about what this is. When the mayor refuses a cooperation, block access, share tactics, and tolerate networks that interfere with arrests, they are not standing up for civil rights. They are undermining the rule of law. They are encouraging confrontation, and they are increasing the likelihood of deadly outcomes. They are also removing the civil rights of other people. When these murderers, rapists, drug dealers, pedophiles that ICE is trying to arrest and they are blocking, they're taking the civil rights away of their victims. Where's Lincoln Riley's civil rights? There's a host of people that have been murdered, raped, by illegal immigrants, and their civil rights aren't talked about. The victims' civil rights are never talked about. Unless it's race. But when someone's life's taken, their civil rights have been trampled on. When they've been murdered outright for walking down a street, minding their own business. You don't hear the Democrats sticking up for that. You never hear the Democrats protesting that, mandating justice for that. But when a criminal or just someone breaking the law, obstructing, gets killed, oh, they want to protest. They want to riot. When a drug dealer gets killed, they want to protest. They want to riot. But when a 13 or 12 or a little kid gets murdered in Chicago by gang violence, it's ignored. Democrats are very picky on who they want to stick up for, and it's always the criminal. Federal law does not become optional because a mayor disagrees with it. Enforcement does not become misconduct because it is politically inconvenient. And public safety does not improve when elected officials choose ideology over order. And this is not sanctuary. This is sabotage. It's unbelievable. This has been going on way too long. It's disgusting. And the Democrats always just blow that off as nothing. But when the criminals break the law, they want us to be all upset and us to be emotionally involved that a criminal is being punished. It don't work that way, people. Next, we're going to talk about Jeffries, and he's drawing the line, and it's pure partisanship. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is making his position crystal clear when asked whether he would support expelling Democrat Rep Sheila McCormick, who has been indicted for allegedly defrauding FEMA for $5 million. Jeffries' response was blunt. I'm a hard no.
Mr. Leader, Greg Steube plans to force a vote to expel Congresswoman Shirley McCormick this week, who has been, indicted for allegedly stealing federal funds. What is House Democratic leadership's stand here? Are you opposing this effort and standing, I guess, with Shirley McCormick?
I mentioned on Friday that Congresswoman Shirley McCormick is entitled to the presumption of innocence, like every other American. I'm a hard no as it relates to the effort to expel her, and it's going to fail.
Mr. Leader, Greg Steube plans to force a vote to expel Congresswoman Shirley McCormick.
Okay. Now, where do we go from here? No nuance, no concern about public trust, no talks of ethics, just flat refusal. Let's be very clear about what this means. McCormick is not facing rumors or media accusations. She has been formally indicted. Federal prosecutors allege she siphoned millions from a program designed to help disaster victims. And the Democrat leader of the House is openly saying accountability does not apply. Now, contrast that with what Democrats did to George Santos. Let me tell you, I wasn't a fan of Santos. I don't care about the man. But you can't have two different rules. And when Santos was expelled, he had not yet been indicted. It was forced by the Democrat Party for this vote to happen. For him to be expelled, the Democrats forced this. There was no complete criminal process. Democrats argued that standards matters, that ethics matter, and that the House had to act. to protect its integrity. They forced a vote. They demanded consequences. Now, fast forward to today, that the standard has magically disappeared. An indicted Democrat accused of stealing FEMA money gets protected by the Democrat Party. A Republican, not yet indicted at the time, got the guillotine. This is not about principle. It's not about ethics. It's not about due process. It's about power, and it's called being a hypocrite. And that's the Democrat Party. When Democrats say no one is above the law, what they really mean is no one outside their caucus. Accountability in their world is conditional, justice selective, and ethics only matter when they can be weaponized against the other side. Jeffries did not misspeak. He told the truth about how the system works. And the contrast could not be clearer. Now, let's jump into some new polls that are shattering the narrative on immigration and ICE. For all the noise, shouting, and celebrity tantrums, the public is not confused. Americans understand exactly what is going on, and the numbers prove it. But before we go any further, let me ask you to do one simple thing. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat. I want to thank everybody that's watching. I appreciate it. Even the ones that don't like me and disagree with me, thank you for being here. But a new poll delivers a clear message that cuts straight through the media narrative. 73% of Americans say coming into the country illegally is breaking the law. That is not controversial. That is basic civics. Borders without enforcement are no borders at all. 61% support deporting illegal aliens, not because they are cruel, not because they lack compassion, but because laws mean nothing if they are never enforced. 58% oppose defunding ICE. Americans understand that dismantling enforcement does not create fairness. It creates chaos, trafficking, and exploitation. And 54% support ICE enforcing immigration law. That number matters because it exists despite non-stop media attack, political smears, and Hollywood propaganda. This is the reality the left is desperate to hide. While activists scream that enforcement is inhumane, a majority of Americans still believe in law, order, and national sovereignty. While politicians frame borders as immoral, voters recognize that a country without border protects its citizens and cannot protect its citizens and legal immigrants. We're going to hold up right there. And we're going to head to break. And before we do, remember, we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of modern political warfare, and we're only peeling back the first layer. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this message. Where the hell to go? There.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the Edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, and I'm here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it. The one thing I do want to go over, because there's one misconception that Democrats love to talk about, that entering the country is a civil offense. It is not. Entering the U.S. illegally is a federal crime under 8 U.S.C. 1325, with the first time unlawful entry classified as a misdemeanor, punishable by fines or up to 6 months in jail. Further violations or illegal entry after deportation can be prosecuted as a felony with 2 or more years in prison. Where they get the stupidity of it being a civil offense is visa overstays. Entering legally but staying beyond the allowed time is generally considered a civil violation, resulting in deportation rather than criminal offense. There's a big difference between entering illegally and overstaying. One is a federal crime. One can be considered a civil offense. You don't agree with me? Try Google. Simple little thing called entering illegally is a crime, and it will bring up the federal code of 8 U.S.C. 1325. Try educating yourself. Now, the public is not buying these slogans. They know that enforcing immigration law is not hatred. They know ICE is not the problem. And they know that pretending illegal entry is not a crime only benefits criminals, cartels, and politicians who refuse accountability. And this shift is not just showing up in polls, it's showing up in population movements which carry real political consequences. Let me bring it up for you. Now, this is CNN. Liberal bastion.
Today I wanted to take a look at some long-term population trends that really should set off a flashing red siren to Democrats nationwide while bringing a big smile to the faces of Republicans nationwide. Why do I say that? Because take a look at the big population gainers versus the last census back in 2020. According to the latest population estimates that take into account the population mid-2025, look at this. The biggest population growth this decade? All 5 of the states that Donald John Trump won in 2024. Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and of course the great state of Arizona, where I spent my New Year's Eve. I love those folks out in Prescott, Arizona. These were the biggest gainers in terms of population compared to the 2020 census. Now, it's not just a red state boom. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at a red state boom here. But it is not just a red state boom. We're also looking at what I would dare call a blue state depression. Because who are the people? Who and where are the people moving from into the red states? Well, They're blue states. They're blue states. Take a look here. The lowest domestic net migration this decade. All 5 of the states that were won by Kamala Harris in 2024. Look at this. California, Harris's home state. New York, where I'm coming from right now, of course. Illinois, New Jersey, and of course the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is a bastion of blue liberalism.
Now, what this does, it's going to hurt in the 2030 census. And that's what a lot of these Democrats don't realize. Because a lot of these people that are moving out of the blue states and moving into red, a lot of them are conservatives that are getting the hell out of Dodge and going to conservative-friendly states that are doing a hell of a lot better. And they're bringing their vote there and the population there, and it'll change the balance of not just Congress, but the electoral vote.
These are the states that folks in the United States are moving away from and into the red states, which is propelling a red state boom. Now, this is interesting, right? But it could also have major political ramifications if it holds for 2030, the next census. Because take a look here. If, in fact, the 2025 population shifts hold for the 2030 census, look at this. Look at the House seat.
Let's not just talk about the 2030 consensus. Let's talk about a lot of the redistricting that's going on. Even with the Democrats doing redistricting, it looks like the conservatives are going to pick up anywhere from 8 to 10 seats on all the redistricting going on.
Shifts by state. Remember, of course, we apportion the number of House seats depending on the population in each state. If, in fact, the 2025 population shifts hold for 2030, states that Kamala Harris won, they would lose. They would lose 7 seats in the United States House of Representatives. The states that Donald Trump won in 2024, they would gain 7 seats. Now, this isn't just about the House of Representatives, right? It's also...
Now, here's where it goes into electoral. And this is where it hurts Democrats even more.
Also about the Electoral College, because the number of electoral votes that each state gets is equal to the number of senators. Each state, of course, has 2, plus the number of House seats that they have. So what would this mean for the House of Representatives? Well, if you remember back in 2024, right, it was all about, we were talking about the blue wall. If Kamala Harris could win the baseline Democratic states and then add in the blue wall states of Michigan.
I thought there was more on that. My bad. But the Democrats are staring down a brutal electoral college reality after 2030. The biggest population growth this decade is happening in red, increasing red-leaning states, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona. These are states gaining congressional seats, gaining electoral votes, and gaining political leverage. At the same time, the biggest population declines are hitting deep blue strongholds. California, New York, and I think you're going to see even more of a mass exodus from both California and New York. You're already seeing in California because of that billionaire tax they're trying to push. Same with New York. All the problems that they're having because of the New York City mayor, Madami, it's causing a lot of people to book it out of there. And where are they going? Lower tax states like Florida. We have no state income tax here, which means you don't pay state tax on your paycheck. The only thing that's taken out is federal and Medicaid. We're looking, my area, we're at a 7.5% sales tax. And we run sales tax free months, weekends, all the time. We have the hurricane season where items that are used for survival go tax free. And we're looking at voting to do away with property tax. Florida looks pretty damn good. North Carolina's losing. Gaining. Arizona. They're all looking good. But you got California, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, Massachusetts. And I'm pretty sure you're going to see Virginia on that list soon. Those losses translate directly into fewer House seats and fewer electoral college votes. People they are voting with their feet. And we've warned these states. Or we try to be nice and warn you this is going to happen. And what they say, no, they're not going to leave. They're not going to leave. They're not going to leave. They are leaving high tax, high crime, high regulation. Again, I want to give thanks to everybody out there, everybody in chat. I'm hoping the biggest supporter of SHR is there today. He's been there for so much lately. I got to give a shout out to Ryan. You are one of the biggest supporters of SHR Media, and I thank you. I want to thank the mods for doing a job. And again, just be respectful in chat. That's it. But again, these people are leaving high tax, high crime, high regulation states and moving to the states with stronger enforcement, lower cost of living, cleaner rule of law, better government. Immigration enforcement is part of that equation, whether Democrats want to admit it or not. Because I hear, how come you don't have all this going on in Florida, in Texas? Because we work with ICE. They don't have to come in and do all those raids because we hand those people over. We have had raids here. There was a construction company here in Florida. I think it was up in the Tallahassee. It was up in the Panhandle. I know that. And the construction company was raided and pretty much took about 3/4 of the workforce and shut the construction site down. So the problem is we're not going out and throwing tension tantrums and burning cities down and blocking streets and attacking people. That's why you see it in California and it's Chicago and Minnesota, because those governments allow it. Those Democrat liberal governments allow it, and they cause it. They encourage their people to go do this. You don't have that in red states. It's simple. You don't want to deal with ICE? Have your police turn over when requested. And you know what? The ones that would be getting turned over are the criminals only. The other ones wouldn't be getting caught up in the raids. There would be no need for the raids. If you're turning them over, then those that are not quote unquote criminals wouldn't be getting swept up in these raids. And then you wouldn't have to sit here and make up this bullshit about ICE being this evil, sadistic group. You're not listening to law. You're interfering. You're obstructing. You're breaking the law. So, of course, you're going to have run-ins with them. You don't want to get shot with them? You don't fight with them. You don't try to run them over. You don't pull a gun out. When facts turn against them, the left does not change policy. They change the narrative. They accuse, they sham, they shame, they distract, and they hope you do not notice that the American people are quietly rejecting their agenda. The poll is not an outliner. It is a warning. America still believes in the rule of law, and no amount of screaming is going to change that. Period. Nice little information came out today. A nationwide rent decline as border enforcement reduces migration. We've talked about this. Rent went up because, well, those people were looking for houses to rent. So, of course, landlords can charge more. For years, Americans were told rising rent had nothing to do with mass migration. They were told it was inflation, COVID, supply chains, greedy landlords, anything except the obvious. Now the numbers are forcing a correction. Apartment rents have dropped to their lowest level in 4 years. The national median rent in January fell to $1,353, down 1.4% from a year ago and more than 6% below the 2022 peak. That is not a rounding error. That is a trend. And the timing is not accidental. The White House is openly crediting stronger border enforcement and reduced migration pressures for easing housing demand. As Caroline Leavitt put it, the decline reflects a broader approach that increases supply, reduces barriers, and allows the market to breathe again. Here's the part of the media spent years denying. When millions of new people are pushed into the housing market every year, rent goes up. When that pressure eases, rent comes down. That's not ideology. That is basic economy. Roughly half of all renters are under 40. These are young Americans trying to move out, start families, save for homes. For them, lower rents are not an abstraction. They are the difference between independence and stagnation. Even left-leaning outlets are being forced to acknowledge reality. The Los Angeles Times recently described Southern California as a renter's market, something that would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago. Renters are seeing renewals go down, not up. Vacancies are climbing. Leverage is shifting. Landlords are noticing it too. In Florida and Texas, property owners report higher vacancy rates and weaker demand. One Miami area landlord said his vacancy rate jumped to 30% compared to the normal 2%. Developers admitted that reduced immigration has removed a major segment of rental demands. That demand did not disappear by accident. It disappeared because border enforcement returned. For years, the Biden administration mass migration policy inflated rents by flooding the market with millions of new renters. Builders responded by constructing units to meet migrant-driven demand. Now those projects are coming online just as migration slows, creating surplus supply. That surplus benefits Americans. Lower rents help keep younger people to leave their parents' house. They help families form. They allow savings to grow. And over time, they cool an overheated housing market that locked an entire generation out of ownership. This creates a political problem for Democrats. They spent years denying the link between migration and housing costs. Now enforcement is producing measurable relief, and the data is undeniable. That is why narrative is shifting from this isn't happening to this is dangerous. Yes, lower housing price threatens inflated home values. Yes, that discomforts older voters who benefit from artificial housing costs. But a country cannot mortgage its future to protect a bubble. I've watched the cost of my house go down. I've watched it drop back down. I understand why it's going back down. I knew my house was not worth what it was. Not that I live in a shitty house. I just knew it wasn't worth that in this area. But it inflated up because of the demand. Now the demand is dropping, so the value will go down a little bit. I'm okay with that. It's not going to go below like under Obama, it dropped below what I bought it for. President Donald Trump has made housing affordability a core part of his messaging, tying border enforcement to restoring the American dream. That connection is now showing up in the numbers. This is what happens when policy aligns with reality and border enforcement demands stabilization. Rent falls. Young Americans get breathing room. The media can argue the politics. The market has already delivered the verdict. We're going on to the last segment, last break. But, folks, this is the anatomy of a modern political warfare. And we're only peeling back. Well, we're on to the second layer. Don't go away. We'll be right back right after I get this damn video going.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. And now on to the last segment. Again, I want to thank everybody in the chat. I appreciate everybody that's here listening and watching. And if you want to join in on the chat, all you have to do is go to YouTube, search for SHR Media, click on the little red round button that says live, and jump into the chat. Just be courteous, be kind, and rewind. The next segment we're going to be talking about is the left does not care about children. They care about using them because they know you care so much. Watch how fast the left reaches for children whenever their policy clap under scrutiny. Nothing shuts down rational debate faster than emotional panic about a child in danger. Democrats know that. They rely on it, and they weaponize it without hesitation. The latest example was a false claim by ICE agents kidnapped a 5-year-old child during an enforcement action in Minneapolis. That word was not accidental. It was chosen to inflame, not to inform. Here's what actually happened. ICE agents attempted to arrest an illegal alien father during a lawful enforcement operation. He ran. He fled the scene. He left his 5-year-old son behind in freezing conditions. He abandoned his child. What kind of man abandons his 5-year-old child in freezing cold weather? At that moment, federal agents had a choice: walk away and abandon a small child to the cold, or stay and make sure the child was safe. They stayed. They protected him. They ensured he was sheltered and unharmed. For doing the responsible thing, they were vilified. The father who abandoned his own child was barely mentioned, if he was mentioned at all, because the truth was not useful. It did not help those easily swayed by tugging at heartstrings. The child was the point. Children are props in the left's messaging arsenal, deployed whenever enforcement threatens their narrative. The facts, stripped of emotions, are simple. And another illegal who entered the United States illegally in December of 2024 and was released under Biden-era policies fled from ICE agents and left his son behind. ICE agents ensured the child's safety. Those facts were twisted beyond recognition. Representative Jasmine Crockett went so far as to call it a kidnapping. That claim was false. It was designed to provoke outrage, not reflect reality. This is not new behavior. The same party previously claimed children were being placed in cages, ignoring the reality that minors were separated from adults to protect them from trafficking and sexual abuse. They recently circulated the tragic death to attack current enforcement while omitting that her death occurred in 2023 under the Biden administration. Facts get buried when emotions work better. Individually, some Democrats may genuinely care about children. I will assume that they do. But institutionally, as a party, their record shows something entirely different. They support abortions on demand, ending millions of lives a year. They oppose serious border enforcement that would stop child trafficking. They advocate irreversible medical procedure on minors who cannot possibly understand the consequences. And there was just a court that ruled in the favor of one detransitioner because it happened when he was a minor and he did not fully understand, and the doctor should have known better. They rack up debt and cultural decay that future generations will be forced to pay for. Those are not the priorities of a movement driven by concern for children. So who actually cares? You do, and they know you do. That is why every distorted headline, every manipulated story, every inflammatory accusation is crafted to hijack your empathy. They want you emotional, not informed. Angry at law enforcement, not at the policies that created the chaos. They want you demanding an end to deportation while ignoring hundreds of thousands of missing migrant children. They want ICE agents casted as villains and enforcement treated as cruelty. They do not care about children. They care about using children to get you to surrender the rule of law. And they will keep doing it for as long as you keep letting it work. Now we go on to, I guess the Grammys were on last night. And Hollywood screaming, fuck ICE, and proves it has no argument, only slogans. When Billie Eilish, whoever that is, screamed, fuck ICE at the Grammys and declared no one is illegal on stolen land, she wasn't making a moral case. She was reciting a slogan, and slogans are what you use when facts get in the way. So, let me look for something real quick. Someone posted something. I think I saved it. No, I didn't. If Billie Eilish is so sure on the stolen land, why doesn't she turn her mansion over to the tribe that once controlled that land? Why doesn't she open those walls to illegal immigrants to stay in her house? It's easy to spew those lines and twist reality, but it's another to live up to the standard that you are spewing. ICE is not a hate group. ICE is not a political movement. ICE is a federal law enforcement agency tasked with enforcing laws passed by Congress. Screaming obscenities at agents does not change that reality. It just exposes how little substance exists behind the outrage. No one is illegal on stolen land sound profound until you think about it for more than 5 seconds. If that claim were taken serious, no nation on earth would have borders, would have laws, or sovereignty. Every country would dissolve into permanent chaos. Yet the same celebrities shouting that line live behind gates, hired private security, and demand law enforcement protection when it suits them. That hypocrisy matters. The applause Eilish received was not courage, it was conformity. An entertainment industry audience cheering anti-law enforcement rhetoric while sitting safely inside a secure venue guarded by armed professionals. And they had to show ID to get in, by the way. is not rebellion. It is performance activism. Bad Bunny followed the same script. ICE out, we are humans. Love over hate. None of that addresses the actual issue. Immigration enforcement is not about dehumanizing. It's about enforcing the law, protecting community, and stopping criminal networks that exploit migrants, traffic children, and profit from chaos. Notice what was missing from almost every speech? No mention of cartel violence. No mention of trafficked minors. No mention of fentanyl deaths. No mention of ICE agents being shot at, rammed with vehicles, or ambushed by mobs. Those facts do not fit the narrative, so they are ignored. The left wants Americans to believe that enforcing law is cruelty and that refusing to enforce it is compassion. That lie only works when celebrities are allowed to shout obscenities instead of answering questions. If no one is illegal, then no law means anything. If borders are immoral, then sovereignty is a myth. And if ICE is the villain, then who exactly is supposed to protect citizens, legal immigrants, and children from criminals who exploit lawlessness? Hollywood has an answer: silence, emotion, and applause. That is not morality. That is manipulation. You can care about human dignity and still believe in borders. You can support legal immigration and still demand enforcement. You can reject celebrity lectures without rejecting compassion. What happened at the Grammys was not bravery. It was propaganda dressed up as art. Now, remember, these people at the Grammys and all these award shows, the celebrities, these actors and actresses, what do? Why do they think they're so better than us when the thing that they do is they play dress up and play pretend for a living? The musicians go out there and dance to the organ grinder, waiting for the coin to be thrown at them. It doesn't make them smarter. It doesn't make them better. It doesn't make them more elite. Doesn't make them less. But I don't get my politics from rock stars, pop stars, movie stars. Madami's new New York City Corrections Commissioner did time in the same jail he will now oversee. Disappointment tells you everything you need to know about priorities of New York City's new leadership. Mayor Madami has named Stanley Richard, a convicted felon who served several years behind bars for robbery, as the new commissioner of New York City Department of Corrections. Richards will now oversee the same jail system where he once did time, including Rikers Island. The salary for this role, $243,000 a year. This is being sold as historic. What it actually is, ideological. Richard served 2.5 years on Rikers Island and another 4.5 in state prison after a robbery conviction in the late 1980s. He was released in 1991. Decades later, Madami is framing his past incarceration not as a concern, but as credentials. In Madami's words, Richards will help build a correction system where justice is at the heart of operations. Richard echoed that sentiment, announcing a new era and explicitly rejecting what he called a punishment center approach to incarceration. What's funny is this sounds like an episode, if anybody's seen that show, Oz, when they had a guy running one of the cells and he basically was a criminal. He let drugs flow. As long as there was no fighting and the stats look good, I don't care what goes on. It wasn't about incarceration. It wasn't about punishment. It was all about him looking good. And that's what it's going to wind up being here in New York. He's not going to give a shit what goes on behind those walls, as long as the stats look good for him. And that rhetoric may sound comforting in an academic panel. It sounds very different when applied to a jail system already collapsing under the weight of violence, misconduct, and death. This is not a healthy system being reimagined. This is a system in crisis. Between 2019 and 2025, at least 76 people died in New York City custody. 15 died last year alone. The jails have been plagued by staff shortages, drug overdoses, assault, a complete breakdown of order. Federal courts have repeatedly found city leadership failed to correct dangerous conditions. So severe is the dysfunction that a federal judge has now appointed an outside remediation manager to oversee reforms at Riker Island. That is not a partnership. That is a judicial takeover. Against that backdrop, Madami's answer is not a hardened correction professional focused on restoring safety or discipline. It is a progressive reform advocate whose public philosophy rejects punishment as a core function of incarceration. That matters. Correction is not a think tank. It's not a nonprofit boardroom. It is a high-risk environment where safety, control, accountability are non-negotiable. When ideology replaces those priorities, people die. Corrections officers know this. The Correction Officer Benevolent Association, representing nearly 5,000 uniformed officers, warned that the system cannot and will not operate as safely as possible if the concerns of our members are brushed aside. They urge Richards to put safety and security ahead of political ideology. That warning should not be taken lightly. This appointment is not about lived experience. It's about symbolism. It's about signaling to activists, constituencies that ideology matters more than outcome. It's about reframing incarceration as a moral failure of the state rather than a necessity function of law enforcement. And that's going to be the last segment we go over tonight. And nothing we cover tonight happened in isolation. None of it was random, and none of it can be dismissed as coincidence. Across there's more than 6 segments. The same pattern kept repeating. Political ideology overrules law. Symbolism replaces responsibility. Emotion is weaponized to shut down accountability. And when consequences arrives, leaders blame enforcement instead of their own decision. And let's remember, most of those immigration enforcement laws, the criminal laws, were put in under Democrat rule. So as they scream that these laws are Gestapo and Nazi, all that, it is the Democrat Party that put just about all these rules in place, that came up with these rules. The incarceration rules between Biden and Clinton. That's the funny part when I look at all this. And the people are too stupid or too gullible to realize it. We saw Democrat mayors openly coordinating to obstruct federal immigration laws. Even as ICE agents are shot at, rammed, and surrounded by mobs, we saw children deliberately used as political props, with facts twisted to inflame outrage, while the adults who caused the danger were quietly ignored. We saw a collapsing correction system handed to ideology instead of discipline, safety, and experience. We didn't get to the state try to shut down federal law enforcement through courts and failure, which didn't work, then pivot immediately to emotional manipulation when the legal argument collapsed. We didn't get to the disgraced politician swears he will never run again while carefully leaving the back door open to power without votes. And we didn't get to Hollywood. Well, yeah, we did get to the Hollywood elite screaming obscenity at law enforcement while standing inside secure venues protected by the very system they mock. That is the through line. Law is treated as optional. Borders are treated as immoral. Enforcement is treated as cruelty. And accountability is treated as oppression until and unless it applies to the political opposition. This is not compassion. It is governance by narrative. When leaders refuse to enforce the law, chaos fills the vacuum. When they undermine enforcement, violence follows. This is why shows like this matter. Not to inflame, not to distract, but to cut through the noise and connect the dots they hope you will never see. If you're tired of being an emotionally manipulated, tired of being lectured by people who never live with consequences of their ideology, and tired of watching law and order treated as opposition, you are in the right place. If you want more from SHR Media, you got BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And coming up an hour from now, you have Edge at Liberty. He's got a special guest and a great show lined up with Sackhead Sean Mondays and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, noon on the East Coast. And of course, you have me, Jersey Joe, Reaver of Common Sense show, Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is where we leave it tonight. This is the Reaver of Common Sense on SHR Media, conservative media done tonight, where truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. And we'll see you next time.